Welcome, everyone, to this update on the Great Suffering leading to the Great Awakening. Now, I created a video originally to explain about the Great Suffering leading to the Great Awakening and the choice point year, which ended in September 2022. And the last update I did was in November 2022. So this is the next update, which is July 2023. So I decided to just something was calling me today to share what I've been noticing. So this is quite an off the cuff video, but I just really felt compelled to share what I've been noticing. And I'm really interested to see if what you guys have to say and what you have noticed as well. So the choice point year ended September 2022. And in November, in my video, I sort of talked very, very briefly about the idea that now the choice point year has ended, it felt like there'd be about 2 years of transition. And just while all the choice points had been sort of integrated and assimilated into the collective energy, and there would be some movement. And I didn't really realize when I said it how true that was going to be. I kind of was thinking about it on the collective level. Obviously, we've all made our choices. There's 7 billion people on the planet, and they've all made choices. And therefore, it would take some time, and these choices would just be assimilated into the collective. But what I've really noticed is that it's really been a time period already. You really start to see it, that there has been a shift and a movement already, where these choices and the constant choices we are always making, how that's really creating change in our lives individually. So this is really what I wanted to share, and just to share kind of what I've noticed. So during the choice point year and after the choice point year had ended, people said to me, Sharon, I think this was the event that was my choice point. I'm not entirely sure. And I think I chose awakening rather than suffering, but I'm not sure. Obviously, I hope that's what I chose, but how could I really tell? And I think at that point, when people were asking me, it was kind of hard to know what people had chosen. You obviously want to hope that people choose awakening rather than suffering. But, secondhand stories kind of makes it a bit difficult to really know. But now I think you can tell. And it's reason why you can tell is who is transitioning to a different version of themselves and who is the same. So if you had chosen suffering as part of your choice point, you were kind of choosing same old, same old. You were kind of choosing, this is the world as I see it. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it's going to be. And I'm not really particularly keen on changing or doing anything different or raising higher consciousness level. It is what it is, right? That's the kind of, and this is very broad. That's the suffering. If, on the other hand, you had chosen awakening was all about saying collectively, this isn't the version of us. This isn't how we see ourselves as humanity. It was a collective call sent out into the universe saying, this reality that we're sharing, this isn't us. And that's why we were given the choice point year. So those who didn't feel that this world that we're experiencing doesn't reflect our true selves, we said, no, we don't want that. We want to create something different. We want a different reality. We want a reality that is based on other values and a different shared dream for what humanity is capable of. And because of that, once we made those choices, we started to transition into that version. And I sort of said on the video originally, I think it's about 2 years, and I think that's actually quite right. It feels like it will be about 2 years for it to reach its true power. We're still kind of at the start of that. If you think we're just past the first 6 months of it. But you can really see in people's lives the people who kind of same as before, nothing's really changing, and those who are doing not doing so much, but creating and making different conscious choices for themselves, and are choosing things that are taking them on a quite a different path to where they were before. Or they got a new beginning, or they're having new starts. And so you can really see that there's a lot of people in transition, emotional, mental, spiritual transition at the moment. And that's why I wanted to do the video, because I really, really noticed it. And it's interesting that most of those who I see in transition are women. And I think that's kind of understandable, because the way society has been created, it's been created from a masculine model. And for a long time, women have been kind of feeling this doesn't really work for us. I don't think it works for men either, but it doesn't really work for women at all, because it wasn't created for women. Women have tried to put themselves into masculine models and tried to play the masculine model game, and it just doesn't work. It's not a really fair game. It's not inclusive. It's not got a level of equality. It's very exclusive, and it really does not work for majority of people on the earth. So it's unsurprising that women are in majority of those who are kind of moving into this new dream to create something better for everybody, not just for women, but for everyone. And and I just share this because I share this quite often, but I think this is an appropriate point to share it again. A few years ago, I'd heard from Spirit the message that the story of humanity so far has been how men ruled the world, but the story of humanity going forward is going to be how women healed the world. And that doesn't seem at all surprising to me, because healing, in its true definition of its original form, was to make whole. And wholeness has a sense of inclusivity. It has a sense of fairness, equality built in. It has, it doesn't have the negative shame, blame, guilt, all of that, which, is part of when you exclude people. That's what you make, and you create an other. That's what you do, which is the egoic masculine model. The competition, the haves and the haves not, doesn't really work for most people. It only works for the minority. So it kind of makes sense to me that if we're going towards wholeness, if we're moving towards unity consciousness, if we are going to create a different version of reality, that women who have been doing this spiritual work, who have really been stepping up, we're going to step up even more. So that makes total sense to me. I'm not excluding men at all from this. That's what it looks like to me on the surface, that women seem to be in the greatest transition. So that's what the inference is that if those are in the greatest transitions are the ones who are really going to be part of this new dream creation. So the transitions that everyone is kind of going through, and I'm taking this from a very personal standpoint, because this is what I've noticed, and I've noticed it from the people around me, but this is what I've been going through on a personal level. And I'm really enjoying it. I think it's absolutely wonderful. So that's another reason for sharing it, because often when we go through change, people find change quite difficult. I love change, and I especially love change when it feels like this, because it's wonderful. So what is the change that's happening that's feeling really nice? This shedding that we have been going through in the last choice point year. Is this me? Is this not me? Is this how I want my personal life to be? Is this really what my life looks like? And we've been asking ourselves some of these bigger questions. And you could say, COVID was part of it. Is this how we really want to work? Is this really how we want to do things? So all of this has been it started off as a bit more of a gentle call, and now it's turned into a much louder call from the universe for us to really return to our true, authentic selves. I mean, how are we going to create a new dream from an inauthentic place? And so what's been really interesting is that I've really noticed on a personal level how I'm really being called to let go of, and it's not a particularly gentle letting go of, it's quite a abrupt letting go of the adaptations in my life that I have made in order to feel part of humanity, if you like. So I call these adaptations, and it's social conditioning, it's family conditioning, it is, judgment that you may have received or perceived to have received that changes your behavior, makes you move away from your authentic soul self and adapt to, in order for you to belong or be liked or be included, or, all the things that societies and judgments do to kind of sort of keep you in line so that we all end up the same. So I've really noticed in the last couple of months that there's something internal within me that says, nope, no more, not doing that anymore. Nope, no more, not having that anymore. Nope. That's what I mean, that it's becoming quite abrupt. It's not a long-winded process anymore. It's not a gently letting go, saying, well, maybe if I acted this way, or maybe if I reasoned it out that way, or maybe if I showed more compassion that way. It's not that soft anymore. It's not that gentle anymore. Now it's more, nope, I can see that for what it is. That's an adaptation. I'm letting that go. Nope, I'm not doing that anymore. That's an adaptation. I'm letting that go. And that's not to say that in order to create harmony in this world, in order to be compassionate, in order to be fair and equal and justice and all of those things, yeah, we do sometimes have to adapt, right? That's not what it's about. It's about the authenticity that you've lost, that you are now noticing you lost it, and you're saying, I don't want it lost. I'm reclaiming it and I'm putting this center as to who I am. I'm not hiding it. I'm not doing a watered down version of it. This is my authentic soul self, and it's fine as it is. Right? So there's been this shift where people are making different conscious choices. Our possibilities start to look a bit different when we are acting in alignment, acting in integrity with our true self, with our authentic self. And so this is a transition that is really, really important for the new dream, because we're not trying to create a world and a reality based on what we don't like, which is what we got, which is what we're trying to move away from. We're not doing it in resistance to the old. We're not saying, oh, I didn't like that, I'm not going to do that anymore. Or, oh, it was like this, and so the opposite of that is this, and then just do a polar opposite. We're not going to do that. It has to come from an authentic dream that comes from the soul self, the soul values that we share. So if we can't access those because the mind has created all these adaptations, you can't do this, you shouldn't be that, you should be more like this, oh, that won't win you friends in popularity, that's not going to make you successful. The mind makes adaptations into a personality, but your soul has always been there as its pure authentic self. But these adaptations stop us. So we can't create a new dream with these adaptations. That just makes sense to me now, right? I get that. So in order for us to create that new dream, in order for us it not to be a reaction to or a resistance of, in order to be authentically a new dream, we have to be that authentic person ourselves. So we are now seeing different possibilities. We're now seeing different versions of ourselves. And I think, sometimes you might even hear people saying, I'm finally becoming the person I kind of know I am, or I'm meant to be. And it's not really a becoming, it's a returning to. So it's quite important to recognize that we are returning to our soul self, our authentic self. And it's not about evolving into a person, like a better version of ourselves, because that's not quite the right languaging. But it does feel like a weird, on the one level, it feels like a becoming, but it isn't, it's a returning. But it may be that your authentic self has been holding this dream of what it actually is in front of you for a long time and saying, this is the person we are. And so it feels like you're becoming it, but actually your soul has been saying, no, this has always been us. Can you see us now? It's like taking off filters and going, look, we've been here all along. So this transition that we're all moving to with our authentic self, yeah, I think it does come with a different level of recognition, acknowledgement, success. I think there's a greater need. And it's certainly in the next 2 years, there's going to be a much greater need for authentic people in integrity, which I think I think we can all agree there is not enough integrity in this world, and it's quite hard to be in integrity if you don't know what you're in integrity with. So, what are your values that you're in integrity, and not fake values, not political values, not oh, this sounds good, oh, this is the person I think I want others to think I am. No, authentically aligned with your true self and your soul values. We need more people like that stepping forward. But you can't really truly step forward. I mean, you can, but you probably shouldn't. You step forward until you know yourself, know thyself. When you know your true self, then you can step forward with confidence. You can step forward without fear. You've got courage. You've got integrity. You've got all the good qualities, right? And we're going to need people like that, because that is what the world is sorely lacking. And I mean that in terms of leadership. There are lots of people who have been on this journey, who have been making this journey towards this version of themselves for a long time. So I'm not dismissing the work everyone's been doing, but they are not necessarily the people in leadership roles. So this is, I believe, where we're moving to. This is the transition we're moving into, is not only are we doing that work and being those people and energetically and vibrationally really embodying these values and these things that are authentically us, and it's coming from a place of contribution and purpose. And I kind of stopped using the word purpose as much as contribution, because really it's a contribution. But it's about giving, not what can we take. It's about leading from a place of collective good rather than individual good. We're moving, as I've said before many times, out of the era of I and into the era of we, meaning that the individual will always have a place. Obviously, we are individuals. It always will have a place. But when we base all of our systems, when we base all of our structures on I and forget about the we create destruction, because it's self-serving. It's not about contribution. When we focus on the we and the collective and the future generations, we then have a sense of sustainability. And it's not just about the I and what you can take from the system. It's what you are giving to the system, what you are giving back into the collective. So we are moving into that, whether it looks like it or not. Those who have chosen awakening most certainly are moving into it. Those who have chosen suffering are not moving anytime soon. But, like late adopters, they too will have to eventually, because otherwise the choice is destruction of the planet. And I shared this very, very briefly with you. We do a Dream a New Dream call in the membership, and we went into the we space in the last call, and just to see what arose. We're not creating it ourselves, our minds aren't creating it. And one of the messages that I got through is that part of the new dream is going to be that those who can will be able to go off planet. We won't be held onto planet Earth anymore. Those who have evolved to the point where they will be able to move off planet. And so those who chose suffering and not able to give up things like inequality, war, violence, and everything else, who chose the suffering that those kind of things bring, they can't be off planet. So there is a potentiality out there for us to have huge solutions, amazing solutions become more available to us for those who can have those communications, who can move interdimensionally. There's a real huge potentiality for humanity, not that far away, but we cannot do that while we have got this egoic idea of better. Something is better than me, something is greater than me or less than me, competition. This idea that it's okay to take and not give back. We can't go into other dimensions. We can't go to other planets. We can't do any of these things with these concepts and these things part of the human mind existence, because then we just create destruction wherever we go. So contrary to popular sci-fi, you can't go to another planet and wreak havoc. One of the conditions of interdimensional travel, interplanetary travel, if you prefer, is that you have let go of all of your destructive tendencies so that you can move freely. And it's an evolutionary gift that you can do this, not a right. So you have to have earned the right by giving up the negative, violence, destruction, taking mentality. And once you reach that level, you're allowed. So we're going to be getting there. We're moving towards that for sure. And I know lots of people, I'm sure, will say, well, I already can communicate with other beings. And of course you can. But whether or not when it goes from a private communication into something that we can really use to be really, truly helpful for others as well. So it's going to be on a much bigger scale. There's going to be more available. So that too is an exciting new movement that we have in our horizon. Should we choose to evolve to the point where these things are possible, we've got to do the work. It's not going to happen instantly. We've got to do the evolutionary work to get there. And I think that one of the things that is happening for a lot of people is that this idea of the new dream, and, I'm calling it new dream because we haven't really got a name for it yet, but the new dream of what our reality that we're saying collectively, this version we don't really like, it's not really us. This version, we want to create a new version of reality. It's getting clearer, piece by piece. Eventually these individuals will come together and we'll get a more holistic idea of what this dream will look like. But at the moment, we are trying to sort of come together in small groups. Maybe you're just doing it individually. But as I said in a previous video, that's our job now, is to dream the new dream, to pick up on what is it that if we were going to create a new world, what would it be based on? What are the values? What does our soul say about this? What would create a society if what we don't like is this exclusivity that means some have and some don't? How do we create inclusivity? Or is inclusivity, if it's at its core of the new dream, what else is at the core of the new dream? And so the dream is getting clearer. And I think that with itself is a great motivator because the potential is so exciting. But even on an individual level, on an individual personal path, our clarity is getting much more clearer on our own personal pathway to contribution and how we want to express ourselves in this new dream. So with this increased clarity is enthusiasm, energy, vitality, motivation that maybe was missing before when we were caught up in the destruction of the planet is probably going to be the only option. Nobody's really changing. Nobody's really doing anything enough. And that's quite a heavy energy. But once we step into the new possibilities, it's quite a lovely different energy field of possibility. There's a potentiality is so much more available. And I think because of that, I think as people start to recognize that and the movement starts to tip towards this kind of new energy, I think we're going to see some really exciting things happening in the next couple of years. But I think that transition period, as I first suspected, is going to be a couple of years. And then the jigsaw pieces will start fitting together much more coherently, and we'll be able to see a more holistic view from all the people's dreams coming together, and so we can kind of got something a bit more tangible to hold on to say, well, this is the old world, but this is what we want for the new world. And so, yeah, that's everything that I've kind of been picking up on. I'd be really curious to hear what you've been noticing, what you've been experiencing. So yeah, share them under the video below.